Let me end this discussion with a very interesting example that I had the chance to work on. There is this wonderful hospital system that was working on people who had a stroke. Okay, so um, the the idea is to do physiotherapy to have people who have a stroke. This is the biomechanics department of a large healthcare system. Now, the way it is normally done, this treatment is normally done, I believe, is human body biomechanically has some 8 locations here, the knees, etc. Some locations which are affected when the person has a stroke. So the doctor first examines the patient and says, hey, you know what? This muscle requires some amount of exercise. This muscle requires a lot less amount of exercise. And the right knee is the most damaged one, so it should take a lot more exercise, etc. So the doctor prescribes the amount of exercise that needs to be done by various muscles. And then the patient goes to a physiotherapist, or the richer ones call the physiotherapist to their home. And the physiotherapist comes at a particular point and makes them do those exercises. And after a week or so, the patient again goes to the doctor. The doctor checks again this system. And then he says, or she says, hey, you know what? I think this muscle is getting more exercise than it should, so reduce the thing. This knee is getting less, so add more exercise to that. And then new prescription again goes back, and the physiotherapist comes back, and so on and so forth. As you can see, the problem with this method is threefold. Number one, it is expensive. Physiotherapists in most countries, to bring them takes a lot of money. Number two, it is inefficient because the doctor is getting to see the improvement only once a week. So if there is some mistake in the prescription, the doctor can change it only after a week. Inefficient. And number three is it's painful. Let me write this down somewhere so that we can address. So what did we say? It is expensive. It is inefficient. And it is painful. See, you are asking a guy who has a stroke to do exercise on a daily basis. Even without that, for many people, exercise is a pain. Now, with this, it's really when they have a stroke, expecting them to do exercises can become very painful. So now, this particular hospital system, the doctors sat and asked, why are we doing it this way? Can we not use digital technologies to actually re-engineer this process? And we worked with them closely, discussed, and came up with a new system. Okay. And what is this new system? Number one, they identified a few video games they created. Okay. For people who are suffering from stroke, they created these Kinect games. Okay. So exercise here is replaced with games. Okay. Exercise is replaced with games. Right. So now, Kinect, when you're playing, your opponent is a virtual thing in the system. And it is able to see exactly how you are moving to make your opponent play, right? So which means it is actually reading your muscle movement. So there is an IoT component, an IoT that is generating and measuring the data that your muscles and your systems in the body is going through. So your system is going through, it is measuring that motion and it is storing it somewhere. So there is an IoT system. Now, we actually used simulations to compute the amount of exercise done by each game for each move. So if you're playing tennis, the forehand is generating this much of this muscle motion, this much of this muscle motion, etc. Okay, so we had that recorded. Now, when a doctor prescribes a exercise system, this much for this muscle, this much for this muscle, this much for this muscle, we used an ML system to convert it into a bunch of games. So this exercise is transformed into 3 minutes of rowing, 2 minutes of boxing, 1 minute of slow jogging, whatever that is. The ML system looked at the amount of exercise doctor prescribed and converts that into exercises, the games. So now another IoT system, actually, which is a watch that the patient wears, measures the pulse rate and calmness of the person and recommends, hey, you know what, you look very rested now. Can we play some games? And the patient goes, turns on the Kinect and plays the games. And as the person is playing the game, the system generates this data and stores it in a blockchain-driven cloud. Because it's medical record, absolute security is needed, and it's put on a cloud. Now the doctor can access it real time anywhere. Okay, so by combining Internet of Things, machine learning, blockchain, and cloud, the entire physiotherapy-driven treatment can be digitalized, where you replace that with games. Now, there are multiple advantages of this. Number one, buying a Kinect is a much cheaper effort than having a physiotherapist for most common treatments. If it is a very complicated thing, of course you have to call the physiotherapist, but common treatments you can actually replace. So the expensive part is handled. Secondly, as you are playing, if the doctor wants, they can look at the data. But definitely at the end of the day, after the exercise is done, doctor can look at it and say, look, this probably needs to be increased, this can be decreased. So it's inefficient. And I replaced painful exercises with fun games. So it is actually something that probably a patient looks forward to. When am I getting treated tomorrow? So I want you to understand this. Digitalization is about not a minor enhancement in what you do. It is about asking yourself, why am I doing what I am doing? How can I improve the performance? By completely re-engineering this process.